welcome to Conscious Conversations. Today I'm going to be interviewing Samantha Jones. She's a trauma counsellor, she's an amazing psychotherapist, and she's also my partner. And you're going to see quite a few conversations between me and Sam on this channel. So before I did a video on the effects of society and the system, and today we're going to be talking about a little bit about how it traumatises us, what the effects are, and how can we start to heal from this. So stay tuned, guys. Catch you in a bit. Hey guys, this is Sam. Sam is a holistic healer. She's an abuse and trauma therapist. She's a counsellor, psychotherapist, and she's also a supervisor. So she's got a lot of experience in her field, and I've invited her today, and you will see her in many more of these sessions. Today we're going to be talking about the system and the impact that the system has on us, and how society kind of reinforces the system. So Sam, can you tell me a little bit about the system that we live in today and the impact that has on us?
Well, the system I think that we live in, you can see mainly, I think, from how our schooling system is set up, where we still use a punishment and reward strategy for all different ages of children, really, where, you know, if you've been very good and you've done all your work and you've got your homework in, you've done your spellings or whatever, then, you know, you get some form of gold star. You know, you've been a good child, you've achieved, you've done well, you're rewarded. However, if there's a child with behavioural problems, then that, you know, can't toe the line for whatever reason at school, there is still quite a severe punishment system in place where they can be sent out of the room, sent to the head teacher, made to do lines or something after school. So it's that reward if you're good and punishment if you're bad. So the brain starts to think in terms of, you know, I've either been good or I've been bad. We associate different
so either I'm going to be accepted or I'm going to be exiled. Yeah.
And our survival systems and our attachment systems from a very young age are really set up to need to belong and to be accepted, because to a very small infant, if they're abandoned by their mother in the middle of nowhere, that means death. So we have a very, very primal, strong need to be accepted and to belong.
So would you say that in the society that we live in, that there's been certain rules put in place which are kind of designed to make you abandon self?
Yeah, to abandon the self and to be a good citizen, and do as you're told, especially when it comes to authority figures. If you think about the power that teachers have over us at school, in their ability to, at the drop of a hat, socially shame us. You know, I can think of numerous times at school where I was made to stand up in front of the class and almost be ridiculed by the teacher, because, you know, I hadn't been paying attention or whatever, and that creates a lot of shame because of that drive to be accepted by your peer group. So we also are set up to want to avoid that feeling at all costs.
You just mentioned when you were at school and you can remember when you were ridiculed in front of the whole class. Can that impact you for life?
Oh yes, definitely, yeah, because we don't want to feel that level of humiliation and shame. You know, we're also geared to be pleasure-seeking creatures. You know, we want love, fun, enjoyment, joy in our lives, and something makes us feel horrible, we will try to avoid that. So the punishment and reward system, if it's set up where, you know, there's going to be some kind of humiliation in place if we don't toe the line, you know, a lot of children just think, okay, well, I don't want to put myself in that position, especially if it's happened before. So I will be good, and I'll do what I'm told, and I'll follow these rules, and it can set up a blind following
Yeah.
of the rules in adult life.
I've also worked with people, and I've done I've done some hypnosis and counselling as well. And with my case studies and with some of my clients, it's often taken problems that they're having in present day life have often taken them back to a point in time. Just one thing, like Sam was saying earlier, about being ridiculed and humiliated in front of the class. Sam has struggled with speaking out her whole life and struggles talking within groups. She's much better now, but I know the impact that had and the work that she's done. And this is just a small thing. Society is extremely abusive in so many other ways. And yeah, like we were saying earlier, if you don't become a high achiever, you end up abandoning the self and maybe creating an ego that fits into society.
Well, it's also creating somebody that is in the workforce, isn't it? And is just working, creating money. Because, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people can relate to, you know, if you're not busy and doing and working, that sense of kind of worthlessness that often pops up, or that sense of like, I should be doing something, you know, I feel a bit lost at sea when I'm not doing. You know, a lot of people have struggle with just being and following their own path because
That's something I can really relate to because growing up, I was massively shamed around being lazy. I was constantly told I had to do, and to become an overachiever, I abandoned myself, and I have a massive fear of when I'm doing nothing. I feel like there's going to be this attack coming from somewhere.
And it goes back again, doesn't it, to that reward and punishment cycle. So if I stop achieving, then something bad is going to happen, you know.
One thing that I've noticed as well is that because of that system, and you're explaining the way that it works, I've recognised that I do the same with my son. Like when I'm trying to get him to move and trying to do stuff, I go into sort of a mode where I over push him and I shame him around not achieving. I mean, I don't now, but I've pulled myself up on it and I've done a lot of work. But my father was the same with me. So the system creates these egos, but it doesn't allow us to feel anything. And it's not okay to have emotions or feelings. So we then transfer this from generation to generation.
It's generational conditioning, isn't it? Like the influence of an overarching system that doesn't have our best interests at heart kind of infiltrates family dynamics, and it gets to a point where actually the system doesn't need to do a lot anymore, because, you know, we're doing it ourselves. We're passing on those family patterns and those things that we've learned at school. You know, despite our best intentions, if we don't resolve that unhealthy attachment that we've had and that unhealthy conditioning from that dysfunctional system, then we will, despite our conscious efforts, continue to program our children with it and influence others in that way. And I think that's been really fundamental, isn't it, to the journey that we've been on, is unpicking from all of that conditioning out there in order to sort of facilitate a sense of wholeness.
Yeah, it's actually amazing when you actually see it and you're consciously aware of how ancestral patterns work, and how we pass this on generation to generation, and how collectively the world is suffering from almost the same trauma. It's unbelievable. I'd really like it if you could stay tuned, subscribe, like, follow us, because what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing a series of videos. These first couple of videos are just making us aware of the system that we live in and how it works. But Sam is going to help us by telling us about the ways that we can have self-compassion and the way that we can start healing from this abusive system. We've recently we're attempting to step out of the system as well, and just recognizing how attached we are to the system and how stepping away from it activates all your self-worth.
It's like I expect most people have heard of the trauma bond that people can have in individual relationships to an abusive person. Well, we've experienced a very similar thing with unplugging from the system in a bigger way, basically. So we can talk about that a bit more in some of the other videos.
We can also talk about how stepping away from the system and recognising and experiencing that trauma bond, how that can accelerate your spiritual growth and can actually, as painful as it feels, it can actually accelerate your healing from the wound that society creates. So please stay tuned, guys, and thanks, Sam, for coming on the video today, and we're gonna get her on many more. So stay tuned, guys. Like, subscribe, and follow us, and we'll talk again soon.